Welcome into another edition of Locked On 76ers. He's Keith Pompey. I'm Marc Farzetta. Joel Embiid plays in a game, and the 76ers still get fined. We'll break it down. Also, the latest with Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks and what Doc Rivers had to say about it. All that and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the number one sports podcast network out there. This particular episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Keith, Joel Embiid plays in a game. You've noted many times through the course of his career and the course of the season that status can change, and not even Joel Embiid knows what his status truly is. But let alone he plays in a game. Sixers still get fined $100,000 for not him playing, but more so what the report said, out to playing. How does this happen, Keith?
Well, the thing is that in that instance, they had to know something was up, because my thing is, I think what probably happened, they had Joel out listed as not playing, and he probably wanted to change his mind and wanted to play. And they said, okay, well, we'll have you play. But the thing is, so this is the problem with the whole situation. It's kind of like he's listed unavailable to play. So the Atlanta Hawks, they come and they have their shoot around at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever time it was in the morning. They go through a game plan with Joel Embiid not playing, right? And then all of a sudden, as soon as you hop on the bus and get back to the hotel, you look at it and you say, oh, well, he's questionable now. So then all of a sudden you got to alter your game plan. You got to do a lot of other different things. But nowadays, I think teams are smart enough to have a little bit of a segment just in case he does play. But the thing is, when you go from out to questionable, it wasn't even doubtful. It's kind of like the league is looking at it like, here we go again, y'all. How many times are you guys going to be a little misleading on the injury report? So I think that's what it is the fact that, it's happened so many times where Joel, at times where he's been on the injury report. He's not been on the injury report, and then that afternoon he is. So I think that you're not getting the benefit of the doubt for your actions at this particular time.
So two things hit me, because my first reaction was, oh, this is about gambling. This is about, people knowing what the line is, knowing whether or not he's going to play, him being out. People are going to bet the game maybe a little bit different. But you're talking about really a schematic standpoint for just the NBA, away from the gambling world. But if that's the case, if he's listed as out that close to game time, and you're saying that's going to affect the way another team is preparing, why does the NBA still even allow a player, despite the status, to play in a game after he was listed for, out for so long?
And that's the thing, it's weird, because I guess you could see, here's the deal. Let's just say if he was listed as doubtful, but then he goes up to questionable, and then he goes up to probable, which in the case it happened with Quentin Grimes, right? He was not on there, then he became probable, and then he became questionable, and then he was out. I guess if you can do it for that, you should still be able to allow them to play if he was out. But you were right, though. Basically, if you list somebody as out, then they have to be out. They're deemed out for that point. If not, that's one way of alleviating the problem, right?
Yes, that's exactly. The other part of this is, in the grand scheme of things, the Sixers essentially get punished for doing what the NBA really wants to happen, doing what the NBA wants anyway, which is the star plays. I get the kind of punishment for not being open and honest about the injury report, but when it ultimately results in him playing in the game, they now punish the Sixers for doing all they could, or Joel Embiid for doing all he could to do what the NBA actually wants, which is him playing in more games. That's ultimately what I don't understand about it completely.
But the thing it's kind of crazy though, in a way. Like, I think if you're going to penalize somebody for them to stop, you got to stop penalizing billionaires $100,000. Like,
right.
To me, like, that's cool. But, you think about all the money that you're going to get for Joel Embiid being in the seats. And if you do win the game, you're going to look at it like, okay, well, it only cost me $100,000. Like, what I mean? It's nothing. Like, if you start finding people $1 million or something like that, then maybe we may start having, some changes. But yeah, and I do think that, believe me, trust me, this isn't the first time that the 76ers have violated this thing. So, with that being said, and I don't think there's a lot of people feeling sorry for him. I think, like, when you look at it right now, and there's people saying, look, either two things happened. Like we said, Joel was out and he decided not to play. No, he decided to play, and it started scrambling. Or the other issue is like, you knew he was going to play all along. You put him out, and then you came back and said he could play. Now, here's the thing. The day before the game, we saw Joel go through a post-practice workout where he was like, he was putting forth a lot of effort. It was extremely similar to the workout that Paul George did before he came back. And when you ask them how they look, are they coming back? Everybody is vague. This time you ask Nick Nurse, you say, hey, Nick, I see Joel doing the same workout that Paul did. Does that mean that Joel's playing tomorrow? And he comes back, he says, it could, but it could not. It could just net, right? He comes back. But then you look around and you see people affiliated with the team all looking at each other, trying to see how Nick was going to answer it. And people were texting each other. So you're like, this dude is playing tomorrow. Like, yeah, that's what you're thinking, right? But then you go on, and then when the injury report comes out and he's out, and you're like, okay, well, maybe not. Okay. So you're like, so then next thing you know, then the next day when he's listed as questionable, then you go back and you're thinking, they knew all along. Or unless, Joel said, I don't want to play. But so it's kind of, the optics just didn't look good, especially how it was before. I mean, people forget there was a time that, and not only that, the coach was asked about it in the press conference before the game. He was asked about, does that put y'all behind a bind? And he said, yeah, a little bit, but, you got to prepare for these type of players playing, because they're that good. But remember 2 years ago when they went to Denver, and Mike Malone was the coach, and all of a sudden Joel was listed as playing. And then all of a sudden, right before the game, he was out. And Mike Malone, it was one of those things where he talked about, he says, listen, we all knew Joel wasn't going to play. He said, when you saw the injury he had in the prior game, you kind of figured he wasn't going to play. And I don't know why the league keeps allowing them to do that. Like, he came very critical of the Sixers. So then when you fast forward it to 2 days ago or yesterday, then you look at it and the league is like, this can't continue to keep happening. And that's why I said he no longer got the benefit of the doubt for it. But again, if you're only going to fine a billionaire, a multi-billionaire, $100,000, it's going to keep happening. It just is. Yeah. I'll just pay that $100,000.
Hey, last I looked, I think Josh Harris and the Blitzer ownership and all that stuff was like $5.8 billion. I think that was the overall net worth, according to a quick Google. So yeah, I don't think 100 grand is really going to, I don't think they're going to miss it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The other thing is it's a bad look for the NBA. Look, I know the Sixers have looked terrible over the years when it comes to stuff like this, but it's also a bad look for the NBA. When they want players to play, the player plays and they still get fined. That's the BS part of it.
I don't really think it's a bad look for the NBA. I think it's a bad look for the Sixers. I do, because it keeps happening over and over again. And what it is, there's certain things we talk about. It's, when we talk about, and I'm not saying it has something to do with gambling, right? But when
I am, for the record, yeah, I am.
Well, you are, but it also has to do with competitiveness. Like, there are teams who are basically doing scouting reports, preparing for the game, and then you keep doing this, and you're like, it's not the 76ers. They ended up getting the beat, not the break speed off them, but they ended up losing. But at the same time, it gives them a competitive advantage because the other team isn't preparing for Joel Embiid. They're basically preparing for a Dembona, right? And maybe Andre Drummond, and then all of a sudden you throw Embiid out there. So I get what you're saying, but it does give them a competitive advantage because they're not being forthcoming on the injury report.
I agree, but I also think both things can be true. Certainly a competitive advantage, and also it can impact the way people are betting the game. Now, the other thing is, why doesn't the NBA just make a rule similar to the NFL where it's either a game time decision or you're out? Like, there's a definitive moment where you're either playing in this game or you're not playing in this game. Why doesn't the NBA just adopt that?
Well, they have to do that at 30 minutes out. Like, well, typically, I think the game was, I believe the game was that game at 6 o'clock. But all I know
the
is
Hawks game was 6 o'clock, a little earlier.
So yeah, by 5 o'clock, the Sixers had to have something announced that if he was playing or not, right? If he was in or not, right?
NFL is 90 minutes. 90-minute meeting is when they determine whether or not who's actually playing or not.
Yeah, and then for the NBA on the typical 7 o'clock game, you have to have it known by, I think it's 6:30 for that one. It's like 6:30. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Fair enough.
It's crazy.
Fair enough. All right. Now, before we sat down earlier today, I was able to listen to Jared McCain's post-game interview after the Sixers did exactly what they should do in their win over the Washington Wizards. We'll get into that. He had some interesting things to say about Tyrese Maxey. I also want to get into Giannis Antetokounmpo's future, as that is being discussed right now in NBA circles. About all that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe on Locked On 76ers. All that and more when we come back after this. And right now it's time to tell you about Robinhood, ladies and gentlemen, how you guys need to take advantage of all Robinhood has to offer right now. The new gold standard, Robinhood.com/yourmoney. What if sports were traded like markets are traded? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You could buy or sell your positions live all game long. Your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's the people moving the action. So when your momentum shifts, you can move with it. I also knew the game. Now you know the game. And right now you can talk about a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the United States. US, download the Robinhood app now to begin. That's Robinhood. Jared McCain, very open and honest about Tyrese Maxey, just in terms of things that Tyrese Maxey has done this year. But there was one thing that really stuck out about Maxey as far as Jared McCain was concerned. After their win over the Washington Wizards, Keith, he was asked about what has taken the biggest step forward as far as Tyrese Maxey's game. He didn't talk about step-back jumpers. He didn't talk about three-point efficiency. He didn't talk about minutes played. The word that came to mind was leadership. Tyrese Maxey's leadership this season through 20 games has taken the biggest leap ahead of what he saw from Tyrese Maxey last year during his rookie season. Jared McCain says leadership with Tyrese Maxey, the biggest leap forward. What do you make of that, Keith Pompey?
You know what I think that speaks volumes about Tyrese Maxey in a positive way, extremely positive way. And he's not the only person saying that. Like, you listen to Paul George. We're talking about a 9-time All-Star. And he's talking about, hey, I'm willing to do anything Tyrese wants me to do. Like, I'm here for Tyrese. You listen to everyone. Like, they talk about Tyrese, as far as being a leader of the locker room. Like, I hear stories at times where, He gets on people. He gets on people. You didn't see that in the past. He felt a little bit uncomfortable. He felt like, he was a young guy, and it wasn't his role to do that. And I think that when we hear Jared says it, it just speaks a lot to that this is his team now. I mean, it really is. Like, he is the leader of the team. Now, there are some people may argue that if Joel Embiid gets in better shape, or if he gets healthier, that, he being, since he was the MVP, or since that if, his upside might be a little bit higher than Tyrese Maxey's if he gets healthy, that he might be still the best player. But this is undeniably, in my opinion, Tyrese's locker room. This is his team. Everyone talks about the leaps and bounds that he has made in the stretches. So, I think when I hear Jared McCain say that, I'm like, it just validates everything that everyone says, that Nick Nurse says, that Paul George says, that Kelly Oubre, all these other guys, the things that they're raving over the leadership. They're not taking knocks at anybody else. So I don't want people to think that they're picking one over the other. But what they are is they're just making a point to highlight some of the things that Tyrese Maxey has done to show that there's been a lot of growth in that area.
Now, the other part of this is, and I know I'm trying not to highlight the minutes, but I do want to talk about the workload. So I know they're joined at the hip there, but it's one thing when people talk about leaders, just to go from the best example of it, military stuff, it's easier to follow someone that's saying, follow me, as opposed to somebody that's telling you, hey, go over that ridge, Maxey is a leader by example, and I think more so he's becoming a leader vocally is what it seems from what I'm hearing from you. And specifically, it's not just the minutes that Tyrese Maxey's logging with other people like Kelly Oubre before he was hurt, or even VJ Edgecombe, and talking about some of the leaders in minutes played this season. They're all 76ers guys that are up there on the list. Maxey is also putting in the work, not just punching the clock, but while he's out there, he's playing efficient minutes while he's out there. The other part of it is Tyrese Maxey is averaging almost 3 miles run per game to lead the NBA. He's averaging 2.8 miles run per game in the NBA, tied for number one in all of the league with miles run per game. He's also run the most miles so far this season. I think it's 57 in total this year, something like that. And then you're also talking about the efficiency. While he's out there running the floor and while he's logging those minutes and racking up the miles, he's also the third leading scorer in the NBA. When I look at his season, he's also, fourth right now in three-pointers made in this three-point happy league that we watch now. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that is, in every aspect of his game, been taking those steps forward for the Sixers team. So again, it's not just someone that shows up at work and punches the clock. It's somebody that goes out there, punches the clock, and makes the most of their time. That, above anything, Keith, I think he could say is the most motivating factor that supports his leadership so far this season.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it supports his leadership. And I keep going back and I forgive me if I already repeated this, but there was a time that there was a game in particular where Maxey was getting ready to check in, but Justin Edwards made a mistake. And Maxey hops up from his seat. He runs over to the scorer's table and says to Justin, come here. Because I believe it was like a foul shot before, Maxey could, go in there and play. And what he did is, like, right at the scorer's table near midcourt, he went over the mistake that Justin made. And then, as a great teammate does, he tapped him on the back, told him, keep your head up. And then he subbed out, they subbed out or whatever. But that just, tells you the leadership quality that he has. And I remember it was something, and they ended up losing those 2 games. But I remember it was a joyous occasion when the first time they went to Brooklyn. Kyle Lowry got minutes.
Yeah.
Janai Broome played. Hunter Silas played, and everybody was in like a joyous occasion. And he said, look, but don't remember, we got 2 more now. We got 2 more. So when you see all this and you see the leadership that's coming out of him, and let's face it, like you got Paul George, you got Joel Embiid, you got Eric Gordon, you have Kyle Lowry, you have Andre Drummond. We're talking about, for the most part, I think Eric Gordon is the only one who didn't make an all-star team of the guys who are older than him, right? And who weren't like on max contracts at one particular time in their career. So you look at it and you say, okay, this guy who's 24, 25, he's the one that's the voice. Now I do hear and I do know that when they go on the road and they have team meetings, Kyle organizes that, and Kyle was kind of like they call him Coach Kyle.
Yeah.
But the fact that Maxey is the one who is the one like, yo, this is what we're going to do, you need to get your butt in gear, and then build them back up. That says a lot about him. That says a lot about Maxey.
Now, it's Jared McCain that's kind of the jumping off point here, talking about the leadership of Tyrese Maxey and everything you just spoke to as well. But as far as the player himself goes, Jared McCain, to me, he's coming off looking a lot more comfortable. We always talk about the two different ways an athlete gets over an injury. First, there's the physical. Okay, he's healthy enough to do it. Then it's the mental. All right, I am healthy enough to do this. He looks like he's a lot more confident in terms of the way he's moving on the floor, especially trying to take guys off the dribble. Have you been noticing him trusting that knee and that thumb as the season has gone on for him?
I have. I noticed him trusting it more, and it's weird. Like before he went down to that G League assignment, he had the big brace that he felt like was bulky on him and everything, and it restricted some of the movement. Well, what he has now is kind of like, it's still kind of a brace, but what they do now, and a lot of the pro athletes have it, is more like a sleeve, but it has like certain, I guess elastic or whatever fibers in it, whatever that keeps your knee intact, and it's lighter. He tried that out, or he wore it a couple of times in the G League, those 2 games. And I remember the second game, he was talking about it, how much he felt more mobile and less restrictive and stuff like that. And I think that contributed. But I also think that if you look at this, Jared McCain has really taken off since Kelly Oubre hasn't been playing. And what that did is it's one of those things where I think he's not taking a place of Kelly at all. But what he's doing is you have to play him more minutes. And before, we were seeing him go out there for 5, maybe certain set. And then if he didn't do well, you had to take him off the floor. So now it's more like, okay, Jared, we got to play you. And so when the guys know that they're going to be on the floor for a longer period of time, they tend to be a little bit freer, because if not, they feel like if I'm only going to play a couple minutes, and I know if I make a mistake, coach is going to bring me out. So I'm not going to play like you're trying to play not
playing tight. You're playing tight.
You're playing tight. Yeah, thank you for having me going down that road. But he's
sure,
playing tight.
I got you, brother. I got you.
So now he's more relaxed. He's doing certain things. So I think we're seeing more of the Jared McCain in the past because of those things, right? Yeah. He's less restrictive, but also at the same time, he's not looking over at the bench to see who's coming in for him after he gives up a layup. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Fair enough. All right, when we come back, I mean, it's just Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Sixers. Signed, sealed, delivered, as far as I'm concerned. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Back after this. Let me tell you right now about the Game Time app. Want to go to the game, the concert, the comedy show? Game Time app has you covered. And Philadelphia, how about this? World Cup draw. Yeah, that's right. World Cup. It's coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part when it comes to the World Cup. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. Finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With the Game Time app, you can track price drops in real time. You can also get alerts when great seats open up. You can buy tickets the moment they hit the app. Plus, it puts the power back in the fans' hands, and it makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Pull up the app, right? Game Time app, pull it up, get your tickets. You have seat views available. It's a real game changer. You can literally see your view to the pitch. That exactly what that view is with the seat view feature. Plus, the price includes the fees up front, which I love, so there's no surprise fees at the end of it. How do these, $100 tickets become $140? What happened there? Not with the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. Every match, every concert or event with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with the Game Time app. So Giannis to the Sixers? Is that just that easy? What's going on with Giannis? I'm hearing Doc Rivers shoot down reports by Sham Charania. What is going on out there in Milwaukee, Keith?
I think both things could be true, right? I think that, Giannis could be frustrated and Giannis could want out. But I also think Giannis could probably didn't officially go and ask for a trade, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look, y'all, what are you guys doing? This isn't what I signed up for, yada, yada, like the wink, wink, or everybody knows it. But he didn't officially go out there and say, hey, look, trade me now, or I want to trade. But everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it would be undeniable. I think it would be if Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the biggest stars in the NBA, asked for a trade, there wouldn't be enough people that he would tell about it. Like, it wouldn't be like a secretive thing, I don't think. Like, the fact that, like, Doc Rivers comes out and just boldly denies everything, I think is a sign that there's a conversation that's being had, but it's not a, you guys better trade me now or else type of deal.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where we are right there. The thing is, you look at it, and I'm pretty sure that's like, I don't know if the 76ers have what a team would want. Like, right now, the best asset that they have that they're probably willing to give up, and this is me, is like, okay, well, if I'll give up Andre Drummond, I'll give up Andre Drummond, I'll give up Kelly Oubre, and I'll probably throw Jared McCain in there, right, for him. Now, if you're the other people, you're saying, okay, you're going to give me, I'm going to give up, well, first of all, that's not going to get the deal done.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's not going to get the deal done. The only player I think on the 76ers roster that somebody would want would be kind of like Tyrese Maxey, right? And you ain't giving up Tyrese Maxey. And, as Phil said, we have nothing. Like, they don't have anything. Typically for a star player like that, an elite MVP player, you got to give up. Typically, they don't get traded. But if they do, you got to give up equal value. The only player on the Sixers roster who you would say had equal value was Joel Embiid, right? But now you like, come on, like he played 7 games this year, 19 last year, 39 the year before. That's surely going to get you fired, right? So it's kind of like the Sixers just don't have anything. And I don't even know if there's a lot of teams out there that have something. Like, everybody keeps talking about the New York Knicks, right? So if you're them, you got to hope and pray that Giannis thing is going to work out. But because who are you going to give up? Like, you may give up Cat. I mean, you didn't give Cat an extension, but if you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you take Cat in, but Cat doesn't have an extension, so I traded for a guy that's going to walk like a year later.
Yeah, right.
It's just a lot of it's a tough situation in my opinion.
I feel like you're walking into the store and you like everything you see, but you don't have any money. Like, that's the Sixers just don't have the stock, unfortunately, to pull off a deal like that. You're not going to trade Maxey. I mean, I would throw VJ into that mix in a heartbeat. I mean, if you're telling me I could put Maxey and Giannis on the same team, there's an open cupboard, but except the unfortunate part of it is there's nothing in the cupboard. Like, it's like, name your players.
And that's the thing. So didn't Giannis just get injured again too?
Yes. I don't want to say he collapsed, but it was one of those non-contact. I hate to even compare it, but it was like what you saw from Trendon Watford, where he was just going up the court and all of a sudden hit the floor.
Yeah. Here's the thing about that, right? And I get and I understand what you're saying. Like, if you can win that chip and you can get Giannis, right? If you think that Giannis is the missing piece for you to win a championship, yeah, you do it, but you got to be 100%, because if we're thinking about it, let's go back to the Clippers with Paul George, right? Yeah. The Kawhi just comes off of an injury. No, Kawhi just comes off of winning the championship. Kawhi says, "I'll come to the Clippers if you get PG." So everybody was like, "Yo, look at how great that was." Now we look at SGA, right? I mean, you traded SGA for Paul George, and you thought that you had the city on lockdown in LA, right?
Right.
You were like, "Yo, we did it." The Clippers are still having problems. Where last I checked, SGA in Oklahoma City look like they could win 4 titles in a row,
right?
The way that they're trending. So
they're just getting warmed up.
And believe me, Giannis is great, multiple time All-Star and this and that. But I don't know if FGA was trending the way VJ is right about now at that particular time. Like at that particular time, you know what I mean? It's like,
fair enough.
Woo.
Real quick, I want to ask you this tonight. Joel Embiid playing tonight? What's your hunch?
Since he's listed as doubtful, no.
Paul George.
I think PG goes. I do. I think PG goes. It depends.
Grimes.
If I'm numb, I think I'm leaving Grimes out for a little bit. Yeah,
me too.
For just a little bit.
Not messing with the calf, brother.
No,
not messing with the calf. His name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. This program is called Locked On 76ers. We appreciate you guys joining us throughout today. I'll make sure you guys also check out our man Josh Lloyd for Locked On Fantasy Basketball, not only making you the number one in your league, but also making you the smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball wherever you listen to podcasts and also on YouTube as well. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the number one sports podcast network out there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe on Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Marc Farzetta. Sixers, Warriors tonight, 7 o'clock tip-off in South Philadelphia. First leg of a back-to-back with the 10-9-8 76ers. Catch you guys tomorrow. See ya.